All right. Thank you for coming on here, Erica, and talking a little bit about your story. I would love for you to elaborate a little bit about where were you prior to starting Core 5 coaching. We've been working together for a little over 3 months now. I would love to, for you to talk about maybe where the state of your health was, or if you're facing like frustrations, challenges, anything like that.
So I grew up a little differently. I had a lot of bad eating habits surrounding food,
Hmm.
what I ate. There was not a lot of nutrition in my house growing up, and my mom didn't necessarily have an eating disorder. She just didn't have appropriate eating techniques, I guess,
Hmm.
and passed it down to me. So, I don't know a lot about nutrition. I didn't know a lot about food, and I don't, I didn't eat a lot of food. I could probably eat once every 3 days and make that work for myself. And when I became a parent, naturally you inhale your food if you want to eat it hot, or you don't eat it all if you don't
Hmm.
want to eat it cold. So so it just kind of, transformed into like the ever snowball of reasons why I could justify my not eating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm in school full time. I have 2 jobs. I have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband. So my
That's a
life
lot.
is my life is very busy, and that's also was a good excuse for me not to prioritize myself because the little time that I might have had, I was giving everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's juggling a lot. You're pulled like, we talk about like wearing multiple hats. Like you're being pulled in so many different directions every single day. Like there's so many demands on you. And it takes a lot of work to figure out like where in there can you find that little bit of you time and find
Right.
like prioritize yourself, right?
Right. At the same time I started this, I started therapy, and it was interesting to hear you say like 5 minutes doing something little can translate to much more in the future. And then my therapy, he's saying, 5 minutes of you time to do a hobby is, and I'm like, well, hobby is an hour. Like everything has to be an hour. So it's been a lot of unlearning and relearning, which has been nice.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know that, by the way, that there was that the therapist as well saying these similar things. Again, that highlights, you know, that thing that we think of like we have to have this big huge commitment, this big time block in order to have like any sort of you time, but it can be simple as like, as you said, 5 minutes of you time. And there was one thing that really stuck out to me. This was probably about probably 2 months ago or so. But on your check-in that we were doing, you wrote that you like planted some flowers, like you tended to your garden.
Yeah, that had been, I didn't do a garden at all last year. So this year I didn't want to do a garden and not be able to complete it. And then that's kind of like the rhythm, you know what I mean? I try
Mhm.
something, I'm not successful, and then I don't wanna try it again because that's defeating. And it's the same thing with food and working out and my hobbies and finding this new space for myself as a mom and as a partner and still as an individual. Uh, has been interesting to kinda do it all at once.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have done a good job at, like, pointing out, like, the little things, understanding that I'm busy and not making me feel bad because maybe I didn't, track 5 days that week, but you know what? I got 4.5, so that was, like, helped me be successful in the program.
Yeah, exactly, and, that highlights, like, everyone's a little different, like, everyone's got a different starting point, and getting caught in that comparison trap of even someone who might be living in the same household with you is not for good because everyone's a little different. Everyone handles things a little different, and everyone wants to do might be something a little different. Like for you, that 5 minutes of gardening or really highlighting those little moments that we probably forget when we get caught up in the day to day, I find really helps really helps us feel good and build that momentum to doing bigger and better things. And it might not look like, depending where you are, like for you, like realistically, are you able to? just like pull an hour and a half out of a day and do what you want? Probably not. Like it'll probably never get to that point.
Yeah.
But you know, to have those little points, like maybe it does turn into like 10 or 15 minutes, something like that. And maybe that's the time, that's all you need to really feel that little bit of relief to make everything else in your life a little easier to handle because you do got that reprieve, right?
Right. Honestly, I really enjoy cooking, and I haven't cooked since probably my second year of school, and I'm finishing up my fourth.
Mhm.
So I'm about to graduate, thank God. And so
So good. I'm so
you
happy.
have taught me more things about food that I didn't know, but on top of that, you kind of like reopen that door to like I'm a cooker. It's a process. It's at least an
Yeah.
hour, no matter how quick the meal is. I just love to do it. It's a process for me. And so like you teaching me through all the foods and like what I thought might have been bad wasn't bad, or what I might have needed less of, I needed really more of. And I really didn't have to eat a ton more food per se. I just had to eat foods that would better assist me. So you kind of reopened that hobby again for me in cooking. And I'm not cooking all the time because of school, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
cook today. I cooked yesterday. Before it was like weeks and weeks and weeks. And I had COVID, so I wasn't able to taste and smell, and that's something that I kind of brought to the table and like challenged you with. And that was hard, I think. Not hard, but like for us at first, I think it made you think outside the box. Like, well, you could eat this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, okay, well, that tastes like throw up, and that tastes like
Yeah.
dirt. It tastes like Dawn dish soap.
Yep. Yep.
So I think you did well, like working with me. And I think I had a lot of anxiety going in about feeling the need to eat all these foods that taste bad for me now.
Hmm.
And hopefully one day they'll taste better for me. But like you gave me more options than I thought I was going to have in the program. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, I love so yeah, that's hard. Like the COVID, you know, having those post COVID and like your smell and your taste just being warped because you know, food is more like it's so much more than just a way to fuel ourselves. It's, you know, that is obviously a big component, but it's also like, especially where you got kids and you got a husband, like, you know, you want to be able to go enjoy a date night or like enjoy some of the food at like your kid's birthday party or something like that. So I love I love the idea of not not having this be in a restrictive mindset, like
Yeah.
having more options and focusing more on those options that you can have rather than the things that you can't have or might taste like, you know, like Todd just like nobody wants to have that. So like stuff like that where it's like it's just so
Exactly.
repulsing. Like don't even worry about that. Like sure it might be like quote unquote healthy or good for you, but like in your case, no. Like we don't need that. There's other choices that we can focus on that are going to make you feel good, that you're going to look forward to having and cooking and eating, right?
Right. I think our first week I was like all red meat off the table. Like,
Yes.
and
Yep.
you started naming some. I said, nope, nope, nope. And so like it was work, everything is just a texture when I eat. So
Yeah.
finding stuff to inquire to my palate that might taste a little differently. It was about adding different foods to make the texture in the food a little
Hmm.
better rather than for a whole year I ate nothing but turkey burgers because that's all I could taste. So now
Yeah.
it's like add maybe a piece of bacon, add pickles, add this, add
Hmm.
lettuce. That gives it the texture that I was missing before.
Hmm. Exactly. So we took like, you know, we focused on the things that you could have that you actually enjoy eating, made, you know, like the best possible version of that that you could have and just like built on it. So like, you know, like you mentioned like no red meat, like, you know, generally, you know, there's nothing wrong with having red meat, but in your case, like who cares if it has a lot of protein if like it tastes terrible? You're just not gonna eat it. So that's fine. Let's take the other thing and then let's build some stuff on there and make it like, you know, edible, add, you know, add some flair to it, maybe add like, you know, the lettuce, the pickles, anything like that to help it out, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Essentially.
So would you say like it sounds like, you know, you definitely learned a lot. There were some things I didn't know in here as well. So I love that you're sharing there. As far as like, a goal or things that you've learned throughout your time together. Is there any like big thing that kind of sticks out with you? Like when we talked to like you touched on like cooking, like that's kind of reignite, which I think is amazing. Because that also is a little bit of I would classify that as you time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Cooking is probably a hobby. I could probably cook all day and be
Hmm.
content as long as someone else did the dishes after.
That's fair. That's the worst part of making food from home is having those dishes to stare back at you and knowing that you got to get them done so you can make again tomorrow. That is for
Yeah,
sure.
to do it all over again. I think
Yep,
that
yep.
when I started the program, I didn't know exactly what I was going to get out of it.
Hmm.
Like I didn't like I learned a lot. I'm not a I wasn't a good sleeper, I should say. I wouldn't classify myself as a great sleeper, but tracking our sleep, that was pretty interesting, and you had taught me a lot about sleep and how it's like related to the gut and your food and gut and your sleep and how it all goes. And I think like by week 3 I was starting to sleep, or 4, because I also have 2 jobs. So
Yeah.
I am a substitute at a special needs school, and I work at a bar at night. So sometimes I'm not going to bed until 4 in the morning. And then other times I'm up at like, and I got to be up at 6 the next day because my kids are going to school. So seeing my sleep trend was interesting. And I did realize, like, after 2 3 weeks of sleeping consistently around between, probably, I think I was at like 7 to 8 hours,
Yeah.
I had felt a lot better. I wouldn't
Yep.
say like nothing with my post-COVID like really went away, but I did feel clearer. I felt a little more ready to take on the day. I didn't feel I like one of the things I wanted to work on was my motivation,
Hmm.
my mobility, and my energy. I think that those were like 3 of the big ones. That was a little
Yep.
while ago, but and I think that the sleeping really helped that a lot.
Yeah.
Especially like I wasn't tired all day.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a big one, especially for, someone in your boat. Like again, like we talked about earlier, like you're being pulled in so many different directions. Like you gotta be, you got, 2 kids and 2 dogs and 2 jobs and a husband. Like you got all these things that you have to tend to. So finding those little ways to just it might not look good like every night. Like you're still gonna have those like maybe one-off nights here and there where you might only get 3 4 hours of sleep, and that's just kind of that's kind of the way it is.
Right.
Just because of the schedule, the way it lined up, you got to wake up, the kids wake up, something like that. um but making that extra effort on those nights where those things don't happen and choosing to not go like maybe binge watch a show on Netflix to escape or something like that, and choosing to go to bed a little bit early and wanting to feel better the next day, I think is the biggest thing there, because you found what little time you do have and being able to find time to make that work, I think is truly admirable for someone in your circumstance. So that's something I really wanted to kind of highlight as well.
I started small, like, and you like helped me. I think
Hmm.
you said something to me, and it was small steps, something. It was a quote.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I can't remember, which is kind of funny because I can't
You'll
remember
have that
my
have to
own.
be a slogan for you, because it really stuck with me. It was like taking small steps to be successful, and just because like you were taking the small steps, it didn't really mean that they weren't good steps.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just steps. So like every night, no matter what, I would go in my bed at 9.
Hmm.
I'm going to be in my bed at 9. And if I lay awake for 4 hours, then great. But chances are I wasn't going to. But
Yeah,
just to get my body, like, once I lay down, it takes me personally like a half hour to like chill out.
yeah,
So just setting those routines for myself and making it a routine, like you would stress all the time, a routine, something easy that you can just throw in and do quick in the morning, or this or that. And I just found myself, drinking less caffeine, getting a
yeah,
little more sleep. My belly was a little more happy.
yeah.
I still
Yep.
couldn't taste food, but that was okay. And when I wanted to quit, you didn't let me give up, because I
Hmm.
did. I did try to quit on you, and
Yep.
loosely, a loose quit, but I was in the midst of my finals and 3 classes in my term, and I was like, "I cannot take pictures of my food. I cannot do this. I cannot do that." And you were like, "Well, what can you do?" And it was like, "Okay, I'm not failing. Like, what can I do?"
Yeah.
You helped turn that, like, perspective around for me as I was kinda crashing and burning. So
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, of course. I mean that's all a part of the journey. And the reality of it is like, you're gonna go through another hard time in your life. And the last thing that I wanted to show you was like, oh, like if you're going through life and shit hits the fan, or you got all these other responsibilities that just kind of pop up. Well, like you yourself, your well-being, everything just has to take a complete backseat. It's like, all right, well, what can you do? Like you said, like it was a communication of like, all right, well, I can track this, I can focus on this, and that's all I can do right now. All right, that's better than absolutely nothing. So let's do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's going to keep you in that rhythm, make you feel good that you're still working on yourself a little bit, even though you got all these other obligations going on, right?
Right. It helped me find a little success, and it felt like a selfish the 3 things that I was choosing at the time felt
Hmm.
like selfish because I was tracking, like, my digestion, how my belly felt each day.
Hmm.
There was no effort in that. I was checking my sleep. There was no effort in that. And, like, I was tracking 3 things that I really didn't have to put a ton of time into,
Hmm.
but you didn't make it, like, drastic or end of the world. It was just, "All right, let's knock it out of the park our last 2 weeks," I think it was,
Yep.
so and I
Yep.
aced my finals and knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly, exactly. So like imagine someone is sitting in front of you right now, and they're on the fence. Maybe they're a little fearful of joining Core 5 coaching, or doing any kind of like fitness nutrition, anything like that. What would you tell them if they're like, "Hey, like I'm interested, but like I'm not too sure about what's going on?"
I would tell them that I found every excuse in the book to not prioritize myself. And I think one step, like, what do you got to lose? Honestly, you're going to stay the same or get worse with how you're feeling. And if you try it, the worst thing that could happen is you'll feel the same. And that's probably
Yeah.
because you didn't follow the steps or you didn't, you know, prioritize yourself in those moments. And the best thing that's going to happen is you might feel a little better. And, that's great. It's so good to build self confidence. Self confidence can take you a long way. And the more you're successful, the better your self confidence. So
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. Thank you, Erica. I just want to say, um, you're a badass.
thank you.
You you gave it your all. Like everyone's all looks a little different, but you did give it your all. And thank you for your time sharing a little bit about your journey, and getting a little vulnerable. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been so fun.
Awesome. See you, Erica.
Bye.